Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Life School Masterclass show. We are on another week, and I have a really cool guest on that we have a really good energy. And she will be we'll be talking about personal branding. And I have Tracy on. Tracy, thank you so much for coming on and just chatting together about all things branding today.
Oh, yes. I'm all about the real talk when it comes to personal branding. So thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm very excited to pick your brain as well, as I know that you have lots of knowledge and I know you do lots of great work with your clients as well. So Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Tracy Borison. I like to call myself a mompreneur. So people like different words. I like mompreneur because I had no intention of being an entrepreneur until I became a mother. And then I just realized that there was most of me that was no longer aligned with the corporate me. And all of my background was in corporate. I went to business school. I was all about I followed the ladder of what it looks like to be successful in the business environment. And then I reached the top of it when I was 36. And I was like, I'm not okay with being at the top of my game when I'm not even halfway through my life. And so that really was triggered when I had my son. And so thanks to him, now I get to do what I love, which is helping people connect to their you-ness. And so when I talk about personal branding, the overarching concept that I use is that your personal brand is the experience of you that people have of you when you're not in the room. So when they're not around you, when they're thinking about you, or when they're just remembering what their experience was of you, that's your personal brand. And I've worked in marketing for years, watching businesses build brands, and some very good brands, some not so good brands. And the fact of the matter is, every individual has this as well. And entrepreneurs can sometimes get caught up in setting up their LLC or making sure that they have social media profiles everywhere and all of these different things that the industry is telling you to do. And most of them are not rooted in who you are and what you want to do. And more importantly, the difference you want to make. So we'll see how much we want to talk about target audiences and ideal client avatars, because I have a lot to say in that arena. But so many people are just they get these templates, they fill them out, right? Even when you look at vision, mission, values, right? You fill them out and then you file them away somewhere, and you don't live them every day. But your personal brand is what you live every day. It's people's experience of you on a guest Q&A. It's people's experience of you from your social media. It's people's experience of you meeting in real life, which I'm in Canada, so we got locked down again yesterday. But that's what it is. And the consistency is tied to that, and not the frequency of how often you post, and all of these things. So I'm trying to bring people clarity on what a personal brand is, what that foundation of your business looks like, and how it can empower you in making the decisions, marketing, sales, business growth strategies that actually work for you based on who you are, instead of what someone else tells you you should be.
I love this. I love this because I know we're moving to an era of authenticity. It's always been, but I think we are learning more about it. And also maybe as a service-based entrepreneur, which you and me are, right? It's, a lot of times it's hard to figure out what is it that you really stand for. And that's a journey for a lot of people. So I know how important it is to kind of know what you're about, what are your values, what are your the things you stand for, and kind of showcase that all over the place. So I'm sure you'll share with us some practical steps of how to do that. But that's the bigger picture, right? It's why do you do what you do, and how can you translate that into the day-to-day, the way you show up daily in your business? Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. You got to do baby steps, showing up, small, things every day, and having a strategy behind. I'm a strategist. I'm sorry. I always got to put strategy somewhere because it's just like, it's part of you. So
Yeah.
strategy into, how are you doing and how you want to achieve it, and not necessarily that way. So I love that you touched upon that. So Tracy, what is the difference between a personal brand? Because if you're a service-based business, you are the brand, right? You are the person, you are the brand.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that that's true.
That's it.
and again, like, so I want to just touch on visual branding, because a lot of people think that your personal brand is your visual brand. So your logo, your colors, and things of that nature. And those are like the cherry on the sundae, right? So like you can have a really yummy sundae without a cherry on top. But
Yes.
the cherry on top like kind of completes it, right? Like it completes the look, right? So that's what your visual branding is. And visual branding, so like if I went to an ice cream shop and I was like, I want a sundae, and someone just gave me a bowl with a cherry in it, I'd be like, that's not a sundae, right? Like you're missing a critical component, the ice cream, right? Like, so your personal brand, and Alona, you use the words show up, right? Like how you show up. I use those words all the time as well, because this is what it's about. And it's not just about showing up to say you showed up, right? It's about showing up to make the difference you want to make. And so when we're talking about specifically those service-based providers who have you want to make a difference, right? Like you're here actually to help people do a thing. I want to help people, right? And there is a way based on who you are, your expertise, your zone of genius, that you specifically can help people. That is your personal brand, right? There are probably problems, Elena, there's probably problems that both you and I solve, but we solve them in different ways, right? Like, so if people are having a specific problem, we might be targeting the same people in certain scenarios, but I do it one way, you do it another way. My way is right for some people, your way is right for some people. And this is the beauty of the market, is that there's so many people who need help that we can do it our own ways. And I think it gets, the waters get muddied by marketing. So I have a background in marketing. Marketing can do very good things, and marketing can do very bad things, just like most things, right? And there's a lot of messaging in the market right now that is talking about, I did it this way, you can do it this way, I'll teach you how to do it my way, right? And so many people go through those programs, and there's a small amount of people that does work for. But the reason what people don't notice is that the reason why it works for those specific people is because those people are very similar to the original person who did it. Yes. And so their values are totally aligned. How they show up on a day-to-day basis is almost identical.
Minded people. We attract like to attract like, right? So right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And but then there's like 98% of people who go through those programs, I've participated in them myself, right? Where you go through and you're just like, oh, this doesn't feel like something I would do, right? And like, I'm a very good student, so I've got all these people teaching me all these things. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to execute exactly the way they tell me to do it, except you don't. And not because you're not trying to, it's because you can't authentically show up that way. It doesn't feel authentic. And so you go through the motions, but then people can also tell you're just going through the motions, right? I have this conversation with people constantly when it comes to Facebook groups, because everybody's like, I need a Facebook group. And I'm like, great, what are you doing in your Facebook group? And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I have my Facebook group. I post in there. And you guys, anybody who's watching who is in any Facebook group, like 90% of Facebook groups are still like, celebrate your wins on Saturdays and Monday motivation, right? Like, and they just have this,
my group now.
Yeah. And it's just like the same post every week, right? And you're like, that's fine, but it's based on like how you want to curate your environment, right? So like if I'm trying to curate a conversation and like I use the same trigger,
every single, that's what it is. Build trust. Like how do we build trust. Yeah.
Right. And how do you build trust, right? So like figure that out. That's your personal brand, right? Like how do I show up? Like I think I run my Facebook group very differently than most other Facebook groups. And I call my people on it. Like I'm like, hey, this group is about owning your personal brand. Like, what are you doing? You don't own your personal brand just by sitting here doing nothing. Even if you're just like sitting here learning all of these nuggets I have to share, unless you're doing something, you're not owning your personal brand. So I have like challenges for people to do the things, help them get out of their comfort zone, right? Like, because this is what I'm doing here. But so many people are just like, oh, Facebook group. And then they get stressed out because then they have to post every day because they made a Facebook group. And like, we didn't want to have a Facebook group in the first place. So, but again, that's because we say
how to use it though. That is so true, because even my business strategy is like, what do I do first? Like, should I do this? Open up a video, do YouTube? I'm like, oh my God, no, nothing, not yet. step by step. So yeah.
And you don't even have to do like, there's so many entrepreneurs that are very successful doing one thing, right? And then guess what? They're the ones that are selling you that this is the one thing that you should do, right? Like, I don't know if like Grace Lever, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but she's all about Facebook groups, right? Like this is what she does. She helps people monetize Facebook groups. And this is great for people who have realized they love showing up in their Facebook group and now want to monetize it, right? Okay, great. Now go buy her program, right? But like for people who don't know what they would have a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Right. Like just wait. You have to do those steps first. Otherwise, you're just going to waste so much time and so much money on other things trying to learn that that's not the way you want to do it. Or you can.
Is there a solution to this? What do you think personally? How do you? I think individualized mentoring is so important. Once you find out that is the thing, that the way you want to go, but you can't know that yet unless you do all those preparatory steps to get there. So
that's what I was gonna say, is like, come work with me or come work with you. That's the way to do it. But
if you like attracts like we said, but I think that's the difference. And you said it so right. And we're very like-minded. I love it. So it's because you know your stuff. You see, like you talk about that, you know who you are, you show the personal brand. It's not just the talk, because sometimes that is what I have a problem with as well, with maybe other people that are just maybe picking up, okay, maybe branding is what I should do. Maybe, I should be a coach for this or that. And that's why the industry is saturated. And that makes sense, right? Because they have to go back and really refer back to their experience, to their skills, to their really naturally what they do well. And a lot of people don't have this wisdom yet. They're just consuming lots of content, but that is getting people even more confused. So I totally understand what you're saying, and it's so true. But that's the other key. It's like individual mentoring. If you stick with somebody, if you like Tracy, let's say, right, and if she's the person and she shows up and whatever she's saying attracts you, and you see the results, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to show what we're doing. And maybe that's how we use a Facebook group. In my case, it's like a platform. It's a platform. And I love it because that's where I can nurture, showcase, show you how I can help you, build trust with you. But doesn't mean that I'm going to do it just like another different Facebook group, because I know who I am. But that is the difference. Because I know what my strengths are. I know what I know, how to help you do it, and I've done it. So I will be very assertive. But some people get turned off by that. Some people, I'm a practical. I consume the spiritual. My thing. What I do different is I'm very spiritual, but I also have the practical. So just like you said, I bring both because of my experience. You have to do the step by step. You cannot go into the marketing yet. You need to know who you're offering the service to, who are your clients, why are you doing it, what's your bigger why, how are you helping them, what's their pain point, all of these things. But most people say, oh, okay, I just need to go to a Clubhouse.
There's also like this conversation. So like you mentioned it yourself, right? Like, I'm assertive. This is how I do it, right? Like
that's my brand.
That's your brand, right? Like the whole point isn't, and I I actually only do one-on-one coaching now, but I used to do workshops, and I had one of the gentlemen in them once tell me that, oh, I just need to like have energy like you. And I was like, no, 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 you are not here to be me. Right? Like you are here to be you. So like, I mean, like energy level, I feel like we're kind of the same. We're like a little like we vibrate kind of high. But there are some people who are much more like relaxed and calm, and that works for certain people, right? So there's no, and this was something really interesting for me, and it came up actually earlier today too, is that just because I, as a service provider, am attracted to certain types of other service providers, other coaches, based on their energy and how they can help me. But that doesn't mean that I have to be them to attract my people.
Yes.
I need to be me to attract my people, right? Like I don't have to be them. I'm going to attract their people. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to attract my people. And my people is tied to how I authentically show up as a human, right? And this is, it's basic. It's a basic concept, but we don't have the practices to actually live into that every day, right? Like most people just get like, they get doing tasks and they task their way through their entire day. And then maybe they feel good at the end of the day because they checked off so many things on their list, but we don't spend any time like asking ourselves those questions. Like every day, every single person has something that frustrates them and something that excites them every single day. It might be the fact that like, oh, my favorite TV show is on, right? Like, or it might be like, oh, why won't my 3-year-old just go pee in the potty? Right? Like everybody has those moments every day. Everybody has one, but we don't pay attention. And anytime we experience, so here's your takeaway for today, guys. Every time you experience a moment of ecstatic passion, joy, right? Choose your word. Every moment you experience a moment of frustration, those are insights. Those are windows into your personal brand. Those are aligned with things you care about. You get frustrated about the things that you care about that are not working out that way. And you get excited about the things you care about that are working out that way. And those are tied to your values as a human. And as an entrepreneur, there is a way to take those values and build your business around that so that you get to spend more time in your day in your, this is what a zone of genius is, right? Like, I don't know if, and I can't, now I'm blanking on the name of the book where zone of genius actually was defined.
But I know by design, which is design, is it's something that is a lot of coaches do. Human design to figure out what is it that you're authentically aligned to. But that's so important. Yes.
Right. And so, like, especially for entrepreneurs who are coming out of the corporate world, usually what you're most familiar with is your zone of excellence. This is not the same thing as your zone of genius, right? So like even me, I was very good at project management as an executive because my CEO was terrible at it and somebody had to get stuff done, right? So like I got very good at project management. And originally I was like, oh, this is like a critical skill of mine. This is not at all a critical skill of mine. I still have a value. I value project management. So I'm on a board right now, and I was on a meeting the other day and I was just like, it felt so painful because like no one was project managing it. And I'm like, I'm already project managing enough things. I'm not going to do it. But I realized that about myself. Like I value organization, but that doesn't mean that I should go be an organizational coach, right? Like that is something I can do. That's not the thing that I want to do. And we need, like, I would love for more people, even in the corporate world, right? Like, ask yourself that question. What do you want to do? If you could create your ideal job description, so you could show up to work every day, and this is, all of these things actually brought you energy instead of slowly draining your energy all day. Like, you guys, we're speaking mostly to entrepreneurs here, right? Like, it's hard work running your own business. You have to do all the things. So if you're going to do all the things, shouldn't you do it for the thing you care the most about? The answer is yes. Right? Like
It's a
we get
class.
into the,
Yes.
yeah. Well, and we get into these stages. I see this so often is people do market research. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about market research today. If you want to talk about real market research to me, please come ask me. But it's not just asking a random Facebook group, what do you need help with? This is not market research.
I do my course.
Yeah. Right. So like, don't do that. But so many people do that, right? And especially I find this in the virtual assistant realm lots, right? Like people are like, just what do you need help with? And then I'll like, okay, everybody told me they need email management, so I'll be an email manager.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
That's what I mean. Yes, true. So true.
Yeah. Like it's crazy. And it is a journey, right? Like it's very hard to just go from, well, I've never asked myself these questions to like getting your clear focus the next day, right? Like it's not that. And so one of the other tips that I highly recommend for you guys, and I know like you're clearly following Alona, so like you're participating in communities like this, right? Like surround yourself with people who think this way. Surround yourself with the people who are trying to grow their personal brand, learn about themselves, build their businesses that way, right? Like I know that Alona has a community like that. I have a community like that. Your business peeps. There are spaces where people are doing this, right? Like, and so surround yourself with those people. Follow me on LinkedIn, right? Like follow the types of people who are talking about this. Curate your feed on social media. So these are the types of things that you hear on an ongoing basis, because then you can just remember to think about them more often, right? Like you don't have to, or if you're like me, just like write it on a Post-it note and stick it on your computer. That's what I do. But like the more you can be part of the conversation, even if you haven't got to the point where you're like super clear on what that is, like get in the conversation, get in these spaces, talk to the experts, right? Like I think most of us are pretty open. I always tell people like, ask me a question, I will answer your question, right? Like I don't believe in knowledge behind a paywall, right? You ask me, I'm gonna tell you straight up. And so like
how we are authentic. That's how we are real. I mean, even if that's how we build trust. I mean, if you can't do that, then you're not gonna last. I mean, you have to do this behind a passion. So I totally agree with communities. I think more communities like this should get created, authentic communities, because I believe I go to a lot of, this is how I've gotten where I am. You go expose yourself to as much of this stuff as possible, especially if you're not clear and you're at the beginning of the business. And you start with what you know, right? Start with what you know, because most people don't even start. We have other things.
Yeah.
But start with what you know, and then surround yourself, go practice that. Even if you don't have a niche, it doesn't matter. Just go talk to people, go surf. It doesn't matter. And then you will start to really form the personality, the brand. You go to one community, you hear this person, you make new connections. It's all like puzzle pieces. Don't you think, Tracy, that it's all like puzzle pieces towards the building of what you would like to build?
I love that you say that, because this is how I describe what I do for people, is that like,
I don't know.
I know. Sometimes it's weird, but like this is what I tell people I do. You are a puzzle. So today, if you feel jumbled, that doesn't mean you don't have all the pieces. It just means the pieces aren't put together. When you get a puzzle in a box, the puzzle's not put together, right? It's like what I do is I dump all the puzzle pieces out on the table. And then what you do next, you flip over all the puzzle pieces, right? So like I got to be able to see all these parts of me. And only then can I put the puzzle together. You can't put the puzzle together in the box without looking at the pieces, right? Like it's just not possible. And this is what working with a coach and operating in a space where people are looking at it this way, that's what you get to do. You get to turn over those pieces. And then once you have that, then you piece it together. But it's a process, right? Like I can't just like open a puzzle box and throw the pieces up into the air and people are like, oh, puzzle, win, right? Like, no, that's not how it works. And when you look at, there's a lot of messaging still that are just like, I can help you skip all the hard parts about being an entrepreneur. No one can help you do that. Like I can support you in your journey as you move through that, but you can't just come and do it my way and then like that saved you all the pain, because my way isn't your way. And this is the thing, like I actually have a hard time when my clients are like, well, what would you do? I'm like, oh, ugh. So I can tell you What I do,
experience, but that's all I could say. Exactly, because it's
that's
just
me. And you can try it, but if it doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, right? Like, let's try something else, right? Like, I can give you a place to start, but this is not like, if you can't do it Tracy's way, then there's something wrong with you. No, I don't believe in that. I actually did. If you guys are going to follow me on LinkedIn, I do lots of fun stuff. I saw another coach post about not being vanilla, right? Like nobody likes vanilla is what she said. And I was like, ooh, that's just such bad messaging, because what if people identify as being vanilla? The first thing I thought was, I actually love vanilla. I was thinking about ice cream. I'm just using all the ice cream examples. But like, what if people identify as this? Like, are you actually trying to convince them she's a personal branding consultant? So buyer beware. Just because we say we're personal branding consultants, do your due diligence. Like, follow the people you believe and resonate with, like Alona said, right? Like, I was like, I can't. Like, my response was, I love vanilla, but more importantly, I hope vanilla loves vanilla. Because in this digital world, everybody, it's so easy to get haters or trolls or whatever on social media, right? And people can consistently tell you there's something wrong with you. And unless you don't believe them, you will believe them, right? So owning your personal brand is about knowing your space and your value, and someone telling you, so say I'm vanilla, right? Like, I'm vanilla and I love being vanilla and I love talking about how vanilla can help people, right? And someone is like, vanilla is stupid, everyone should be chocolate. Like, no, I have no interest in being chocolate. And now people can say that to me and I'm just like, well, no, that is your opinion and that's fine, but that's not true. And being able to like own that. I always tell my clients that, like, I will know I have done my job when you tell me no. When I give you, you could try this, and you're like, no, that doesn't feel right. You win, you graduate, yes. You owned your personal brand, right? Like, that's the point. I actually want people to say no, right? Like, I did one of my clients was redoing her website, and I had made some like copy edits, and she was like, no, this just doesn't feel right for me. And I'm like, yes. Own it, man. That's the point. My words are not more perfect than your words describing your personal brand. My words describing my personal brand are the perfect words, but my words are not the perfect words to describe anybody else's personal brand. And if any personal branding coach tells you otherwise, come talk to me.
I love that, Tracy. So tell me, what do you think we should do then? Let's say I'm a coach. I have my brand very clearly. Well, you never have. You're always evolving, right? So that's
always evolving.
You're not like one thing, and you're just evolving. Maybe the next year you're gonna add more things as your business is evolving. So I think like it's not like one thing you just figure out, I am this and that's it, and I'm this forever. No, you always evolving, but you have to do it as you're growing along yourself, and you're very self-aware, which is why I say there's no business growth unless there is self-awareness and personal growth, and they go hand in hand. Because once you have to know yourself in order for you to do. You have to know who you are before you do anything. So I love
that is where businesses stagnate. I have been working in businesses that stagnate that way, right? Their CEO has no more personal growth in any area, and therefore the business doesn't grow.
Which is why I left corporate. There was no more growth. I said, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly why. So we know that. We know that's what happens. So that's why I say it's connected. But Tracy, so tell me, what do you think about, I'm a coach. I know my thing. I'm putting out my messaging. What's your advice? So I can't put a vanilla in there. I am like a fire, let's say. So I will attract another fire, right? So should I have to be authentic with my messaging? Is that what you would say?
Yes. Right? Yes. And it's all about, again, like, I like to tell my clients to put on their feeling caps instead of their thinking caps. Because, like, here's the thing. So my story is about, this example I gave is about vanilla. The reason why I posted about that is because I read it and it triggered me. Right? Like, it triggered me as an unacceptable way for vanilla to look at vanilla. And I care about vanilla. So I have to say something about it, right? Like that might not trigger other people. That coach might be specifically targeting people who want to be chocolate, right? Like, so it's not that what she said was wrong or what I said was wrong or whatever, but it's based on like, what does this mean to my personal brand? So like, Alona, you might have seen it and been like, this is totally irrelevant. I'm not going to comment, right? Like, and that's totally fine. That is what it looks like to own your personal brand, right? So this is why it's actually it's a little bit tricky to talk about in the large scale, because like there is no one way to do it. There is no one right way to message. It is just about creating clarity. I like to call it the vocabulary of your brand, right? So like I don't believe in I help statements. I don't like scripts. I never have, right? Like I was a Toastmaster for many years. I never used a script. I'm just not a script person, right? Like I don't use scripts. What does that attract? Other people who don't like scripts, right? It doesn't attract the people who like scripts, and that's fine because there are other people talking to the people who like scripts, right? Yeah. But if I showed up and I was like, I believe in scripts, I'm not going to convince anybody that that's true because it's not true. I don't believe it. Yes. So that's the point, right? Like I don't believe that everybody hates vanilla. This is why I have something to say about it. There's probably lots of people, I didn't even look. There's probably lots of people who liked her comment, right? And we're just like, yeah, no one likes vanilla. Those are her people. They're not my people. This is why there's a market, right? Like this is why there's space for all of us to exist and serve in the way that we want to. But if I was trying to be her, that would feel so hard every day. I would actually have to try to be, I like to use the analogy of like, it's so hard to fake your reflection in the mirror. So like, if I'm going to go stand in front of a mirror, I look like myself. If I want to look like someone else, I have to try, right? Like I have to try. I have to change my hair. I have to wear a mask. I have to change my clothes, right? Like I have to try. To do that on social media is the same thing. You have to put that kind of effort to show up differently than you are. It's actually, if you have been the cool kid in school at all, you know exactly how it feels because that's what it is, right? Like you're showing up to be something else you think someone else is expecting you to be, but you don't even know that other people think that. So it's just like a huge waste of time and energy. So personal branding is about showing up exactly as you are confidently so the people who have the same values as you can understand that and then buy your services.
Yeah, and get help through your services. That's the other thing. It's like selling a serving. Get help through your services. That's why I don't believe in competition at all.
I agree.
Once you are in your zone of genius, you will always attract. I am a spiritual person. There's enough room for everyone. People have so many problems, but they just don't know who to turn to for solution. So there is no room for that. I could do personal branding and take a whole different approach, just like you said. So I love that you said that. So yeah. I appreciate all the information you shared on just through examples, because we learn through just stories and examples. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, because a lot of times when I read about it, it's like it could be an abstract concept. But then once it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like and through the example of the vanilla, right? And of the assertiveness, it's like, this is how we learn. Like, this is the serving part as well that we're doing. And I appreciate all the serving that you've done so far on our show today. I mean, I've really enjoyed everything that you've said. And I would definitely recommend everyone to just go to LinkedIn and connect with Tracy, because that passion behind that, I mean, you just showcase what you speak about, right? Because you just can't fake that. It is what it is, and it will come out of you when you are speaking. And communication is another very powerful skill, which I think as an entrepreneur is important to develop, because these are all skills. So you could talk about this authentically, not the way Tracy talks about it, not the way I talk about it. Just find your voice.
Your way.
Everyone
your voice.
Yes.
This is one of the things I am most passionate about too, is that everybody has a different voice on purpose, right? We've been created that way. The way that we say things, that is, I have this, so I run this messaging mastermind. It's to help people like get confident in their messaging. And one of the things that came up is people are trying to be profound, right? So like, I'm writing a post, I need to be profound. I'm responding to a comment, I need to be profound, right? And like, profoundness, which I don't think is actually a word, but being profound comes from you saying what you have to say in your own words, because no one's heard you say that way before.
Yes.
They think it in their words. It's not your job to try and think it in their words. They already know what it is in their words. Where they get insights, where it becomes profound, is you using your own words. That's the space, guys. That it's not a trick. You don't have to try to be profound. You just have to show up and say what you have to say in your own words. That's what makes you profound. There, another golden nugget you guys can take away.
All right, Tracy, I love you. We can continue, I think, to talk about this forever, because we're very aligned with, with all of it. But at the end of the day, I think it just becomes about, do your personal development, figure out who you are. The rest will just work out like a puzzle piece. That's really all it is.
Yeah, and then you have the puzzle, and then you're just like, oh, now I see the tree, and now I see the boat, and now I see the ducks, right? Like, oh, those things, that's your marketing plan and your sales plan and your hiring plan. Those things, they just like, that's so easy now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just through action, you just get to the next thing. Unless you take action, you just don't see the next puzzle piece. That's the other trick.
True. And that's what I said. I don't learn how to own my personal brand just by sitting here watching Tracy get passionate personal brands, right? Like, gotta do something.
Yes, you gotta find your own. That's the journey. But we can only just be here and guide you, right? At the end of the day, we only can share our personal perspective, and just like you said, the way that we know best. At the end of the day, you make those decisions. That's why I tell people, there's no more selling, do it my way. I mean, honestly, that just feels too freaking hard. Even when people do it to me, I'm like, no, I know.
I always just think like, is this working for you? Because like, it's not working for me.
For me. So awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy. We are at the end of the show. I'll let you go. I think you're on your lunch break. I'll let you go back and maybe take a few minutes of breather before you go on for your day. I appreciate everything you shared with us today. Is there any last thing that you'd like to share before we close out?
Just be you, guys. Be you.
Do you. That's it.
Do you. Yes.
Do you. It's so important. Thanks again, and we will see each other on another show. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.